Welcome to the Black Male Impact. Today we have another conversation. We have with us today Dr. Tymon M. But before we get into the conversation, I'm going to ask Dr. Graham to share with us just a little about himself, and then we take it from there.
Okay. So Tymon Graham, I serve as the Associate Vice President for Student Success and Engagement at Edward Waters University in Jacksonville, Florida, the first HBCU in the state of Florida. So very proud of that. I'm Southern raised. I'm from South Carolina. I had the opportunity to do my undergrad at what I call the best HBCU, South Carolina State University. Got my master's at University of West Georgia and my doctorate at Benedictine University, and have had the opportunity to work at a number of institutions, but have found my place and what I love to do with student success and making sure students succeed. So that's what I do now for my full-time work. And then also I work with the nonprofit, the Collegiate Black Male Network, to do a number of items geared towards making sure that Black males succeed and persist through college.
Okay. I was going to challenge you and say my HBCU is the best HBCU, but I'm going to allow you to win today.
I appreciate it.
Okay. All right. So the purpose of this conversation is to inspire change, especially amongst Black men. So my first question to you is, what is the mindset that it takes to make a positive impact?
Yeah. So the mindset is one of work. It's very much a place where students are, or even Black males just in general, have the space to be themselves, but make sure that you have a positive impact. I think even for me, being authentic in the space I'm in, who I am as a first generation college student, telling that story, that's where it begins. And when you have a space like that to make impact, students really succeed. And you have to think farther down the line. I think a lot of times we think of how do we make the immediate impact right now, and that's great, and we do that. But sometimes as scholars, as educators, we have to see beyond the right now of success and impact, and see down the line. What can we do down the line to make sure the next generation of students are successful as well? How does this impact today, but then also set a foundation for future impact, even when we're far beyond the institution where we're at, the organization that we are? We want to make sure that impact still continues.
Well, and I really do like that perspective of having long-term vision when it comes to what we're doing. So what we do in the present, we have to make sure it will last, not just now, but further, or those who will be benefiting from what we're doing today. So thinking long-term, I do appreciate that it really matters. So we have to be thinking beyond now when we're thinking about making a positive impact. So I really appreciate that perspective, because sometimes we do think about immediate and try to get what we can get done now, but sometimes the immediate success in itself may not last or be beneficial to the long-term goal. So we have to be really taking consideration our long-term goal. So my next question to you is, what advice do you have for the men listening on how they can play a role in creating positive change?
For me, it's use your voice and tell your story. For me, I am a first generation college student. I'm proud of that. And I'm able to tell my story. And there's so many other Black males and males of color that are as well, and they're able to identify with that part of who I am. My nephew has reached out to me. Now he texts me more than ever, because now I'm a first generation college student, but he now is asking me questions about college. Where should I go? I'm interested in this. And his mind has changed over the years, but now I'm able to guide him and help him navigate what that looks like for the college admissions process, for seeking the institution that's the best fit for him. My HBCU was the best one for me, right? But I understand that it may not be the best for him. Luckily, he is interested in my institution where I went to undergrad, so I'm extremely proud of that. But we have to make sure we allow ourselves to tell our stories, but then also really use our voice, because that's really critical to making sure that we create the positive change in America that we need to see.
And that's great that now it's like you pave the way for those coming behind you. Now they see that you have done it. And because you have done it, maybe I can do it too. And
Right.
as Black men, we have to. And I really like what you said, use our voice, tell
Yeah.
our stories, because our story, each of us may have a different story, a different experience, but that experience can give someone else an opportunity to see themselves. So
Right.
what was that for you, being the first generation student? What was that experience like for you?
At my HBCU,
Just in general.
my experiences has been phenomenal. I went down my path of figuring out what I wanted to do. Even at in undergrad, I said I want to make sure I impact students. I wanted to be an educator. My mom worked in service. My very first mentor was an educator. He was a principal of a middle school. So I had that space for me to really think through what I wanted to do and what my journey would look like. So I was able to really go down that path of these are the things that I really enjoy, and how do I pull those grad that allowed me to see a new world of what it looks like. So I was able to kind of go down that path.
Okay, okay, man, that's great. And you mentioned something that's I believe is really important. You have identified or had a mentor early, or someone who have demonstrated what you'd like to do in life. And I know, as you said, your cousin may see that through you. He see your accomplishment as something that he can aspire to achieve himself. Okay,
Right.
so man, that's great. And I may come back and touch on mentorship, because I know that's maybe a part of what you do daily in regards to
Mhm.
inspiring students. So I'll get back to that in a minute. How can we, as Black men, help to change the narrative today?
I think be authentic, show up in spaces that our Black males need us. There's one thing that we did at Edward Waters University last year that we'll continue doing is our Black or our Male Empowerment Week. And we had an opportunity to bring males from across the campus together for a week of events to talk through whatever the items that they want to talk through to engage them mentally, to help them think more critically about who they are as Black men, how they see themselves in the world, how they interact in the world, what's next for them after college graduation, and then really put them in a space to be vulnerable, but in a space that also they knew they were very much supported. So I see that that's a place that we need to continue to go down. But in order to do that, we have to see a lot more men of color and Black males really show up in spaces that males need us. If you growing up, we had a lot of female educators and teachers, and that's one point in American history, that's what you saw. But now, and there's nothing wrong with that, right? But now we see a lot more Black males that need representation in the classroom and throughout their life's journey.
That's also a valid point and a good point, that we need to show up in the spaces that needs us. And even if we're going to be the first to be in those spaces, we need to be there, because as you mentioned, representation matters. And the more the next generation see us achieving our goals, it becomes easier for them to achieve their goals. It doesn't have to be the same, but we need to be in those spaces. If we're thinking about creating change, if we're thinking about want to see change, we can't just look and hope that change happen. We need to be in those spaces as you shared. And I think that is really important if we're going to move forward, and if we're going to change the narrative for especially for the next generation, to believe in themselves and what is possible for them.
Right.
So my next question is, who, I know you mentioned actually before that you had a mentor in your middle school. But the question is similar to that of that nature, but if there is someone else, but what or who has influenced or inspired you to pursue the path that you're on?
I'm in higher ed, so there's the higher ed greats like Melvin C. Terrell, Dr. Melvin C. Terrell, who was one of the longest standing vice presidents for student affairs in history at a predominantly white institution. There are people like my president, President A. Zachary Faison Jr., who is absolutely phenomenal at reaching millennial students, and I see myself as also reaching millennial students, but he's phenomenal at creating the experience for students to keep students at the forefront of an institution. People like M. Christopher Brown II, who has been phenomenal across institution types to really, really make an impact, not only just in the student experience, but also in the academic experience and the agricultural experience of students. And then people like Herman Felton, who always shows up in spaces for Black males. And if you notice, all four of those are Black males, right? So they show up in spaces and influence not only Black males, but then also all people across the higher education spectrum, not just HBCUs, but PWIs, public, private. They tap into all those spaces and then shine a light to really influence, but then hold people accountable, right? So that people like me say, I can't fail at this. I can't not try. I can't disappoint these people. So it gives you the energy and the drive to continue doing what you're doing.
Well, and I think, especially when it comes to us, have it's not just a blueprint, but an example
Mhm.
of the type of success we would like. And when we have those examples, and we should also strive to be those examples, but when we have those examples, when we look up to these individuals, we tend to hold ourselves now accountable to
Right.
how we think we should show up, because we are modeling someone that have been that example, that
Right.
have been the change, that have been Black excellence, that have been leading the way in the spaces that we are. So Black men, we have to show up in the spaces that
Mhm.
we have a passion for, but also be that example. Because one thing, as Dr. Graham said, we are always watching. The next generation is always watching. We never know who is watching us. And if
Right.
we're going to create change, we must strive to be that example. And those were some great names. I have to go back and do some research. But it's great to hear and just hear the perspective and just individuals that we ourselves, some of those who are listening, may not be familiar with, but have set great examples for us as we are out here trying to make a difference and a positive difference in our communities and stuff like that. So my next question to you, what is your perspective on the current climate of Black men in society today?
I think it's kind of twofold. One side, I think that Black males have everything that we need to be successful, right? We have everything in us to do what we want to do. It's how we focus ourselves even in the Black community. We don't take no's. No isn't an answer. We find another way to make something happen. So I think we have everything in us to really be successful. But on the other side of it, we need help, right? The dozens of Black men that are doing it, that are being successful, that are modeling the way, that are really tapping into the success of our students. One day we're going to get burned out, right? So we need that support from the communities, but we also need others to step up too, to join us in the fight to further our Black males, to see them succeed, to see them educated, to see them really be a model for future generations. And that impacts the future, that impacts the pathway to success, that impacts creating the positive change that we talked about earlier.
Okay. And just to ask a question, in that light, along that lines, being in your space, how your student respond to you as a Black male?
I try to be a model for them, but also be approachable, be in arm's reach. So if a student needs me, they know they can come to me, right? But at the same time, I hold them accountable. One of my some of my favorite students, we probably did not meet under the best circumstance, right? But we've had conversations, we've turned it around, and now they are successful because they realize that I'm not just an administrator on a college campus that is telling them no to something or holding them accountable, but I'm here because I want to see you succeed. And this is how you can really do that. So changing the thinking of our young men to be successful and show that the things that you do today does impact the future of your life.
Man, that's important. And they do need that reminder at times if they're going to become who they are capable
Yeah.
of becoming. So that's great. So, my next question to you is, what change do you want to see in general and amongst Black men?
The biggest change for me is communication. There is a lot of times that Black males, we hold it in because I think we're taught by society that we have to keep it all together. Well, no one has it all together, right? The president of the United States doesn't. Our parents don't always have it together, even though they may have portrayed that. So it's at this point in societal history, in our cultural space, and for Black males, that we have to communicate more. Mental health is a real thing, right? We have to know when we need to take care of ourselves, but then also in that communication, be authentic. Just have a vulnerable moment to really have a real conversation of how are you doing, right? I think sometimes people say all the time, check on your strong friends. We need to check on our strong males, but we also need to check on every other male too.
Yeah. Well, that's a valid point. We all grew up in a society where, as men, we, especially when it comes to our emotions and how we feel, we need to deal with it ourselves. But you touch on a valid point in regards to share, communicate how we feel, the challenges we have, how things are impacting us. Because when we do that, I was reading something maybe a couple of days ago,
Right.
where when men talk, men heal and stuff like that. So by sharing the challenges that we have, by talking about it, we get past those challenges, and then we become better, not just for ourselves, but for the people we are around, or in our work environment and stuff like that. So I really appreciate that perspective, because as men, we need to communicate and share the challenges we have and how we feel about certain situations, and don't just keep it to ourselves. And I think once we can do that, we'll get past a lot of hurdles, and so we can become the best version of ourselves. So my next question to you, what was a pivotal moment in your life?
In 2005, I went through a peer workshop with the organization. It's now called Peer Forward, led by a phenomenal leader, Gary Lennon. If you haven't heard about Peer Forward, check that out. It really changes and targets underrepresented groups and students that want to go to college, to make that an opportunity and a possibility. So I went to my college summit workshop in 2005 at the University of South Carolina in Columbia. And a lady who became one of my mentors, she walked up to the front of the room and she said, if you give me 4 days at this workshop, I will give you 4 years. So if you give me these 4 days of being 100% participation, focused, listening, learning, preparing for college, then I will give you 4 years at an institution. And those 4 years will impact the next 40 years of your life. At that moment, I didn't get it, right? I didn't understand what she meant. Later, I talked to her and I said, I get it now, right? So, and I tell my students the same thing when they come to orientation: give us these days at orientation. And if you are here, you are present, you're listening, you're learning, then these 4 years, I'll make sure that you can get to graduation. I'll help you in any way I can for you to be successful, because this will impact the next 40 years of your life. It is not just your life, but it's also the lives of your family, the lives of your children, your future children, nephews, nieces. It changed the trajectory of the Black community.
Man, I really like that perspective, and I may adapt it when talking to students, because that is very important. Get students to understand these moments right now can change your life forever.
Right.
And just having their attention, and by getting them to understand that, they may focus more, they may listen more, they may take the examples that you're providing more and apply those, because now they say, you know what, if I can do this in this moment, then it's going to affect my next 4 years. And as you said earlier, it's going to affect my next 40 years. But also not only their life, but also the life of their family, the people in their community, and everybody that they have associated with. So I think that is really important. And I think that was really a pivotal moment, because just about for you, about to start, and then you get that perspective, put you on a path, and to where you are right now, because the person tapped into your psyche and said, you know what, oh man, if you can do this, I would help you to do this. And then once you start doing the thing on your own, you start to gain the confidence on your own, but you already tap into what person have said to you. So my next question, and I'm going to ask you this question before I ask my final question. Where can the listeners find you and help support your work? to make a difference?
I'm on Twitter, at underscore Dr. TMG. I'm on Instagram. I'm on LinkedIn. You can find me those places. But the work that we do is in higher ed, and higher ed needs more students, more families to pull their students into education. Growing up, a lot of times people didn't think that, some of my friends even didn't think that college was an option. College is an option, and exposing students to what college is and how they can find their path. There's an institution for everyone. It may not be the institution that our parents went to or our friends go to, but it's an institution for everyone. So definitely that's how we can help support the culture. And it would be, if not robbery, choose Edward Waters University, right? Because we have so many phenomenal things going on for our student experience, and they're also a quality education, right? So it's a lot of institutions there, and then also the work with the Collegiate Black Male Network, and increasing the college going culture, increasing the persistence, and increasing retention of Black males in education. So that's really what we need. So if there's an opportunity for people to engage, we definitely would welcome the opportunity for people to engage.
Okay, man, I appreciate that. And I will definitely put the contact, especially for your LinkedIn, somewhere there in the comment or description, so they can reach out to you and contact and follow up with you if they have any more questions or concerns and stuff like that in regards to school or higher education or Black males going into education and stuff like that.
Awesome.
So my final question to you is, what impact do you want to have on the world?
I just want the world to know that I was here to make sure that I could do everything I could to see students succeed, to see avenues created for anyone. For Black males is specifically important to me, but see those avenues created for success, to make sure that people know that regardless of where you come from, you have an opportunity for success. People talk about the American dream and all these things, which are great, but how does that translate to you? So if anything, I want someone to walk away knowing that someone sowed a seed in me, and because of that seed, it has grown. One of my favorite songwriters is Donald Lawrence, and he said at a concert that he was at, he said that we are because others have sowed into us, and we should sow into other people. So we're here because someone did something to us, someone sowed into you and to me, and said, you know what, that young brother could do a number of things if they just have the support, stretch their capacity and their thought, and give assignments to that at the moment I may not have thought were fun, but it taught a lesson. So open to that lesson, but also don't take the seed that was sown in you, but pay it forward by sowing a seed in someone else.
Well, yes, and we would not be where we are if it wasn't for others. I can tell you, for myself, and as you shared with the people that you have encountered on your journey, we would not be here if those people didn't see something in us. And go back to what you said. Now it's our turn to make sure we encourage, we plant that seed into others. We let them know that we see in them what they may not see in themselves. Because and it's all about change, and it's all about growing, it's all about progress. So we now have to take the baton and make sure we become that person who help the next generation to be the best that they can be. And this the conversation, it was great, and I really appreciate the perspective that you shared. And to go back to one of the points that you made with communication with us as Black men, and also for us to show up in the spaces that we are and be present when we're in those spaces, let people know that we are there, not just as the stigma and the labels that society placed on us, but let them know that we're there and we are here to do great work. And that's something that I'm going to take with me as I go forward, to make sure when I'm reminding other young men, especially, that you need to be your best self in the environment that you are. So this conversation was great. And so thanks for being here on the Black Male Impact. But before we go, do you have anything else that you want to say?
No, I said, if anything, I can help anyone to, if they have a path for education or if it's not education, if I can be of service, just let me know. Contact me. I know you'll put the information up, but feel free to tap in because we want to make sure that as many students are as successful as possible, no matter male, female, whatever type of institution you're at, how we can help to do that.
Okay, thanks. Dr. Tymon Graham, thanks for being here on the Black Male Impact. It was a pleasure having this conversation with you. We're looking forward to having more conversation in the future. For now, we will continue doing the work that will make a difference. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.